at least a 5 count before people actually hear us. To that end, I will say good to go. And welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice with David Gornowski in his camera angle. We have a new sponsor for the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's called Steve Messina Video Consulting and Editing Services. Do you see the difference from one side of your screen to the other? Allow your video product to not look all fucked up. Like Matthew over here.
Yeah, I need a Snickers.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like, I toned it down a little bit as soon as we got connected, but prior to that, I was freaking raging in here.
Yeah. But I will say, you know, a lot of these podcasters will try to push their book or, you know, whatever on you. Not me. I'm going to try to push video editing services and video consulting. You just go ahead and reach out to me on Twitter, at Messina Inc. Slide in these DMs and Daddy will take care of you. A nice courtesy.
I thought you were going to say that you're not going to try to pitch your own book. You're going to pitch somebody else's.
No, I'm going to pitch this goddamn train, though. I tell you that.
So the reason that my shot is so tight is because my camera is special. I know nothing about like these camera setups and everything. I just know that I took the camera that Jason Stapleton gave me, and sweet Jace. I took the camera, just plopped it on top of the what do you call it, the tripod, and I just go and push the button and turn it on as soon as I'm ready to go. That's just my process. That's the extent of it. And every, I don't know, 20 or 30 times that I turn it on, it just loses the ability to focus altogether. Manual focus doesn't work, autofocus, nothing about it'll work. It's focused like way the hell in. So, but typically all I have to do is just turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, unplug it, blow on the lens, like push some stuff, mess around with some stuff, yell at it a few times and it'll start working again. So I tried that today and it didn't work. And I tried some other stuff and it didn't work. And I connected to Steven and said, Steven, camera expert, please help. And he looked at it and said, looks fucked to me. And
yes. And you too can receive a courtesy rate for such consulting services by DMing me on Twitter.
To get such great help and support as well. It's a fantastic advertisement for your service.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that looks fucked, buddy.
But you definitely, while you were helping me get started here, we were trying to get it fixed, you definitely said some words that I didn't understand, which leads me to believe that you knew what you were talking about.
Exactly.
Exactly. But there's that. Let me get this thing.
Yeah,
I'm
Matt
cleaning up all these streams.
Matt was really pitching a fit before we connected here on Zoom, and where we're trying to go in life, that's some energy that we really need to let go of. So we need to practice not letting the temper get the best of us. And one thing that can help that is guided meditation. See, what I like to do is set up the segue.
That was slick.
and then just take a left turn. Like I didn't know I was doing it. But one thing that can help us, friends, is CBD products. Now, Matthew will list off an entire laundry list of all the fantastic products that are available at palomaverdecbd.com, the website of our good friends Carlos and Vanessa. But I only care about one. I'm sorry, it's the strawberry lemonade gummies. I don't know why you would be interested in anything else. I mean, I guess if you have sore muscles and you want to rub some salve over your milky thighs, then you could definitely do that. But is Daddy a sucker for a strawberry lemonade CBD gummy? And it'll just help us keep nice and calm for the future and where we want to go, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But before we talk about it, head on over to palomaverdecbd.com and peruse their plethora of products, but ultimately just order a bunch of strawberry lemonade CBD gummies. And when you check out, use promo code KING to save 25% off. That's right, 25% off when you use promo code KING.
Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Just masterful.
Thanks.
I'm I keep sitting here waiting to hear Prison Steve.
Prison Steve. Yeah, I don't watch The Office enough. I just know that this happened at some point, and I needed an excuse to not have people see what my hair looked like. And I was like, I have a purple bandana. I could do that dumb. I could pretend like I'm wearing a purple bandana because I'm being ironic and referencing The Office. But the truth is, I want people not to see my hair, and I wanted to wear a purple bandana. What of it?
I think that's a perfectly
That's about as libertine as I get, I would say.
With promo code King, you also get 25% closer to Matt's face. Well done, Popular.
It is, but does anyone I don't know. That's a Neighbor's Choice guy. He has a tight shot, I tell you.
Yeah, I mean, he does. It's pretty David Gornowski.
Gornowski.
Yep. He's a.
Can we interview him and we'll all just
totally 100%.
That'd be pretty good. Yes. Matthew and I, before we realized that my shoulders take up the entire goddamn frame. Sorry.
Yeah, big boy.
Yeah. So if you want to learn how to make your little fucking bird shoulders look like they actually have any substance to them, definitely go ahead and reach out to me in my DMs on Twitter for video consulting services, where I will say words that you'd understand, but I will make your shoulders look as big as possible. Yeah, before Matthew and I realized that this might actually be like a legitimate vehicle for conversation and moving things forward, we really did have, well, maybe it was mostly me, but we did kind of come up with some great self-sabotaging ideas for interviews, which I don't know, maybe one day we'll carry them out as our swan song, but
like if we ever decide that we just want to burn every bridge that we've
burn
ever
it to the ground,
absolutely roast it. We have the perfect map for accomplishing that.
Oh, boy, do we! That could be some good supporting listeners content.
Yeah. I see your Boston shirt there. Your Boston shirt.
Yes, on heroin.
Yeah, your boys were doing some work yesterday.
Not
the Patriots.
Okay.
Brady and Gronk.
Oh, yeah. Those are the only ones that I care about anymore, certainly.
Are you to Tom Brady as I am to Russell Wilson, where like you follow the player and you care a little bit less about the team?
I follow Sierra, to be honest with you.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. But, what about Giselle?
Man, I think, for me, if I could just do a little swapperoo, but Giselle's kind of based, isn't she? Now that I think about it,
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, never mind.
She's got that because she's Brazilian, but she's got that German.
Yeah. We can all do the math on that one. Yeah. When I was wrong in Florida, there was there's a lot of different things. There's just like this one guy who just like a male steroided version of Giselle, and I was like, got you. And then he told me he was going to rape me. So yeah, that's a true story, by the way.
Yeah,
don't do HGH, do it, but just be careful. That's all.
Watch out for the meatheads.
Yeah, it can do some things. The HGH, it can make you behave differently, especially if you're doing a couple other things with it. I don't know from personal experience of doing it myself. I know from dealing with people, lots of people who were science experiments back in the day. But boy, that is some. You would think
it's very bad to perform science experiments with supplements that you put into your own body.
Correct.
You never know what might happen.
Right. Exactly. Yes. You would think that for the purpose of keeping the bit going, that some muscle-bound, sweaty guy wearing no shirt being on top of me, telling me that he was going to rape me was was like at least a neutral experience. But no, it wasn't great.
That seems kind of like the sort of experience that I would go out of my way to not have.
Right. Yeah. At the time, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was pretty funny. But then how he was behaving afterwards, I was like, oh, he wasn't joking. He wasn't joking. Started taking that good shit a couple days ago. I see.
Apparently, Andrew got featured in an Agaris Nexus blog post. Congrats, Andrew. Was it a positive feature, or was it someone reeing at him?
Hmm.
I'm imagining if it was Agaris that it was probably positive. We tend to have far more in common with the Agaris, or at least they seem to appreciate us more than regular old ANCAPs,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of funny because I think that our position with respect to actual political action, actually, it was a re-article. Okay. With respect to actually like getting involved in politics,
Mm-hmm.
we're comfortable with way more than an ANCAP, and
Mm-hmm.
then by default, then even more than an agorist. So it's funny, we're far more, but by their standards, we're far more statist
Mm-hmm.
than ANCAPs, but it seems like agorists, I guess, except for this guy here, agorists generally uh, seem to enjoy us more than they do ANCAPs. I don't know.
Yeah, it's some interesting A plus B plus C math happening there. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with being pragmatic, maybe, or practical.
It's
Like
probably
towards a
the
particular
whole
goal.
like build the parallel economy part. I think that's
Mm,
probably what they find a lot of
sure.
alignment with. Speaking of the creating an alternate reality, the title. That's sort of as we came into this conversation today, we kind of didn't have a really clear agenda. Like we didn't have this, oh, this is exactly what we want to talk about. We sort of
Yes.
have a bunch of thoughts that are all floating around.
Which makes
And
me happy to announce the name change officially. We will now be called No Agenda.
well
With
played,
Maddie and
well
the Stevie
played.
Boy. Yes. Yeah, and to that end, you know, we got some kind reviews about the last episode. Some notable Adam Patrick, for one, was saying that it was our best episode. And what we're trying to tell you very sort of between the lines today is that's not going to happen today. We're going to be leaning heavy on the chat and the supporting listeners today. And probably Andrew. Now, if you want to watch a great episode, you go back to last week's Thursday's episode, I believe. Oof, that was a doozy. That was a real fun one. There was profundity. There were laughs. There was cats.
Profundity abounded.
Yeah, it abounded all over the place. Today, probably not. I mean, maybe, but we're depending on you. That's right, you watching right now, not you listening later. We're depending on you who is watching and listening right now to help us salvage this No Agenda podcast with Maddie and Stevie.
I will say this. I just was checking to see, and it looks like no, it's not quite up yet. But we, the two of us, Stevie and I, were both so honored as to be invited onto Counterflow, and we had a great conversation with Buck Johnson. And I think that the episode's supposed to post today or tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure when.
Maybe late
But
today, maybe tomorrow. But keep an eye out. It was a fun one.
It was very fun.
Yeah,
it was a great.
Made me realize, like, when we start to have guests, like, who I'm going to try to do an impression of. That would be Buck Johnson. I'm going to. I mean, Buck.
That'd be very good.
I'm going to try to I'm going to rob your personality as best as I can. Like, I'm going to just try to Jordan Peterson it. Yeah, I see no reason to do anything. I think everybody should do it. Everyone should just try to.
You should get a bald cap.
To be Buck Johnson.
Not a ball cap, but a bald cap.
Yes, yeah, and just like stuff my shirt with like pillows and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't know. I'm like this. I'm like almost at a junior Buck level today. The way that this, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know why my torso looks like this today. But I'm probably only going to wear this shirt. And I'm not changing the camera angle. I'm leaving everything just like this.
You're going to spend the rest of your life in exactly this position.
This is about as Buck Johnson as I'm going to look. So, yeah.
But yeah, so go to Counterflow on YouTube. Subscribe to Buck's channel. He's at 888 subscribers right now. I almost feel like telling people not to go subscribe because he should stay there. 888 is a really
number.
Cool.
But we got to get Buck monetized, which is 1,000.
Infinity,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. Let's when he's 8,888, we'll do that.
Yeah, good call.
But and then again at 88,888. But yeah, what a great interviewer. You know,
He is an absolute pro.
There's no way that he should be at 888 and we're at whatever that's more than 888. We need to write that that problem with imbalance in the universe. If we're ever going to move forward, and today's all about moving forward, that's one thing that we need to fix immediately, if not sooner.
That's very true. Speaking of moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
I think everything should start showing up on the podcatchers any day now. I went and polished a few things off this morning on Podbean, and as far as I can tell, I've done everything. It's not all the instructions and stuff aren't super clear, but I think I've got it connected to Apple, to Spotify, to Google, to Overcast, to whatever, to all iHeartRadio. I think it's connected to everything. So you know what? Just while I'm sitting here, I'm going to look and see real quick if I search for King Pilled, if it shows up.
Now,
what would be feeling that
really interesting is going back and when people listen to it, you can kind of see when the episodes are from. Do you put in the description initially where they are? Oh, look at that! It's up there.
It's up there.
That's pretty cool.
You now officially can go to the podcasts app. Let me check Spotify and see if it's there as well, because I think that this is going to be the number of people that I get asking when the podcast is going to be up. I feel like our numbers are going to explode now. I get messages almost every day from people. Hey, is it a podcast yet? It's just hard for me to watch on. Apparently nobody wants to support YouTube. I don't know why. There's such a fantastic organization.
The free speech platform.
They're so responsive. Over on Wealth, Power, and Influence, they took down a video of ours. It's from years ago. It was about Jeffrey Epstein, and they claimed it was harassment and bullying, that we'd violated their policy on harassment and bullying.
Jeffrey Epstein alone.
Matthew. I just went and just listened to the entire episode very closely, listened to every single sentence all the way through the whole episode. And it turned out, I figured out exactly where it was, where they thought that we were bullying somebody. So I just wrote to them. I said, hey, this was a very honest mistake here. I can't remember exactly what it was that he said, but Jason said I remember what it was. He said that someone in the comments on Periscope had said something about how it was a certain ethnic religious group that was responsible for the offing of Jeffrey Epstein. And Jason said, well, as you know, the insert religious ethnic group is responsible for everything, or they did everything, or so he said something along those lines. And I'm sure that was the phrase that caught it. It was bullying. We were bullying the bullying the juice. We'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kindly told YouTube, I was like, hey, I think you guys got this wrong. And what do you know? It only took about, 3 days. And they said, yeah, actually, we were wrong. So that whole week that you were unable to stream, you were unable to upload anything, all of that, it was just a mistake. It was just a very honest mistake. Whoops, we're sorry. And they fixed it right away. So all we lost was just a week of being able to use the channel. But so it's just an absolutely fantastic platform. We really appreciate YouTube, and by sheer force of will of our audience, we're uploading our episodes now as audio podcasts. Mm-hmm. So, we don't want to. We feel bad. We've had a long conversation with YouTube. We told them how we feel, but we told them that we feel beholden to our audience. So, yeah.
Speaking of going back and listening to portions of podcasts, I had to go back and listen to it. I've never heard you sound more unexpectedly Canadian. Like it just, when you said, hey, like a couple times in there, I was not ready for that. It just sneaks up on me and I can't unhear it sometimes. Yeah, that was something. And going back and listening to old podcasts of ours, it would be really fun for the fans to, kind of be able to take a look at whatever our positions were as far back as, when did we start doing this? November, December, somewhere in there, maybe.
It's October.
I
think, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it was before. Yeah. It was before the election that Trump lost.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely
so,
lost.
yes.
Completely fair and square.
And okay, yeah, and man, how our positions may have changed, or I don't know, maybe there's something that we were talking about way back in those days that at the time a lot of people weren't talking about. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I'd like you to look out for some of those.
Oh.
But it would be cool to. It's like very like time capsule. Like there's been a delay, but things have like changed so much. It would just be kind of like a fun little treasure hunt.
I've gone back through and listened to a couple of them as I've been uploading everything, like
Mm-hmm.
not the whole thing, but just parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I feel pretty confident that our best days are behind us. Like it was kind of like we had this big backlog of ideas. We had everything we wanted to say, and it took us several months, but we just
Yeah.
spewed it all out.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of like there's nothing there anymore. So we're just sort of like we're just biding our time, just dragging it out. Come on, words. Let's go. Get out there.
Yeah. Me, you, and sometimes Jason, we're going to talk to each other in three people and just say all this stuff that like 0.0629% of the population we're concerned with or thinking or like moving towards. We got it all out in a few months. And then you went on Pete Quinones' show.
Everyone's like, hey, let's go listen to these guys. We don't have anything to say anymore. Go listen to our old stuff. You have to do it on YouTube. You can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. Leave it like face up with, in your car seat, maybe like wedge it in so that it keeps playing. Right. And then, yeah, that's how you listen to our podcast. Isn't a podcast? No.
One of the things I always did when I used to drive like an old beater car, I would take the thing, I'd like plug it in, and then I'd set it on my like right where the speedometer is. I'd set it there, and I would point the speaker on the phone at the plastic that covers the speedometer, because then the sound would reflect off, and it was like really nice acoustics. It would project it right back at me. It was almost better than my actual car speakers. Those were fond days. Those were good days.
Yeah, you can go back to them. Believe me.
That's true. I definitely could.
You can. Yeah.
I don't
you
think
can actually never really leave. Well, you can leave them briefly for like 5 years and then go back to them, I suppose. God damn it, I miss being rich. But maybe the way forward is to be comfortable being poor, potentially. A different way of life.
Yeah. I think that's actually probably the core message of King Pilled when you really get down to it, is to be comfortable being poor.
Yeah.
Being poor is like that. That is the aspirational goal.
Yeah. It's like stop being poor and also just be comfortable being poor.
Exactly.
Yes, both and.
Exactly. Yes, and. Yes, both and. That's a for those of you who don't know, that's a great Lord of Spirits reference. That's an Orthodox Christianity thing in general.
And it allows you. Yeah, and it allows you to, even in this case, even like I hold two ideas in your head at the same time that seem to contradict, and be fine with it, even if you can't explain them. You can just let go of it and just say yes, both and, because they both make sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's if your goal is to get down to the really, I don't know, like meaty nitty gritty of reality, you're going to start running into paradoxes. You're going to start running into things that are both true. And I think there's a big instinct it's probably kind of like a Western modernist instinct to try to reduce everything.
Tease them out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Break everything down, pull it all apart. And which is good. I think that's a good instinct. That's basically what I do all day, is I keep trying to get down. I keep trying to drill down to the very bottom. But I think where people get in trouble is when they start trying to eliminate things. They're like, well, I have these two competing things, these two competing points that are both true at the same time. So, all right, this one, I'm going to take that one and throw the other part away. And when you do that, when you throw that other part away, you just lost all of the wisdom or the knowledge or the understanding that you could have in that part. So if you can tune your mind to be able to take two seemingly opposing ideas and just accept. So it's like you start from the premise of these are both true. I don't know how, but I know they are. So I'm going to pretend that both of them are true. I'm gonna act as if I live in a world where both of them are true, and then play with the consequences of that. I'm going to see what the implications are. If these are both true and I act as if they're both true, where does that take me? What parts of reality does that bring into my gaze? And when you do that, you will find that you'll see things that other people don't see, because other people aren't pretending that both of them are true. Other people, the simple-minded, they this is the midwit IQ thing, where the people in the middle of the distribution are like, no, they can't both be true at the same time, and the people at the bottom, the people at the top are like, they're both true. Yes, both and. There you go. There's your meme. So it's going to be
Oh,
the guy at the top
I'm
is
about to
either
make
or,
that. I'm
and
about to
the
make that.
left and right are both yes, both and. But since nobody's doing that, since there's nobody who is assuming both of these things are true at the same time, everyone just picks one side or the other, then when you start thinking both are true at the same time, then it opens up a world to you that other people don't see, which means that there's opportunities at your disposal that other people aren't taking advantage of. It's a market inefficiency, to put it in autist terms. Real quick, just to go back to the point about the podcast, us having the episodes coming up. On a serious note, I'm going through and uploading them as like a few at a time, and I got the first 3 edited and uploaded, and then just so I could get the first batch out there. So if you go listen to them right now, there's 3 episodes, and those are the 3 oldest ones. There's a few at the very beginning that I left off, like a bunch of our episodes with Jason were just not topical, really, for the we were discussing a very historically narrow subject, and we as soon as that subject was behind us, we kind of zoomed out and we started thinking and talking a lot more broadly, and that's where I decided to pick it up. So the first 3 episodes are pretty interesting. They're, in fact, I'll just read them to you guys here. So it looks like it's not up on Spotify yet, but it is up on iTunes. So the first episode was Game Stonks, plus what libertarians can learn from AOC, which is appropriate given what's happened recently. The second one was how the GameStop saga proves that socialism isn't just a left-wing idea. That's a nice little spicy one. And then the third one that I got up is left-wing hypocrisy is a feature, not a bug. So from those, you can probably remember what we were talking about at that point in time. That was our James Lindsay. We were listening to his stuff on what's his name, the Frankfurt School guy. It'll come to me. Someone in the chat will say it. Deleuze is the name that's just stuck in my head right now because I need to read Deleuze. But anyway, so we were reading a lot about it's right, Marcuse. Marcuse, that was Herbert Marcuse was who we were reading a lot there. Yeah, thank you, Nicholas. And so we were discussing Gramsci and Marcuse in a lot in that. Yeah, Adorno was someone I've never actually read Adorno, and I need to. So shout out Caleb Brown. Get Caleb Brown in the chat. I'm going to be doing a show this week with Caleb Brown on what exactly is the name of your show, Caleb? I think it's the Catholic Libertarian Podcast. He's doing a book club series this month on Hoppe. So I'm reading A Short History of Man, and he and I are going to talk about that.
That's so good. That's such a good. I mean, it's a quick listen too on audiobook. I mean, it's
like
not
3 hours.
Is it even that long? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Man,
and I listen on 1.8 usually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fantastic. Like, really, you can get. It lets you know, like, the kind of person who's interested in the topics that, and has a viewpoint that, like, Hoppe takes on those kind of historical concepts, is going to wind up where Hoppe ends up in terms of his prescriptions and stuff like that. So, yeah,
I feel like Hoppe must think, or I should say it this way. I think very similarly to Hoppe. I have a similar.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
So part of what
Anyone
I want to do when I
want this, you know, like they're going to read that and be like, yep,
I thought you were going to say anyone who listens to this knows that we're basically Hoppa. I mean,
Yes.
we're easily as smart as he is.
Yeah, that too.
The part where I feel like he and I are similar is there's this. I have this urge when I'm trying to understand a subject to go back as far as I can, to just kind of keep going back, start like at the beginning, get as close to the beginning as I possibly can, and then build up from there. So create like a logical structure building up from the ground. And that's what that book does. It starts with hunter-gatherers and describes the social dynamics of, I won't get into it too much because I don't want to spoil my conversation with Caleb, but it gets into the social dynamics within a hunter-gatherer society, and the way that principles of like property rights and the nuclear family, and even the institution of marriage, the way that it's handled in the Western society, the way that these different social technologies evolved, and they naturally evolved because of environmental and social pressures. And once you recognize that, once you see, it's kind of like he gives you the beginning of the process, and then you can understand the mechanisms of this machine based on that first blip of the process, and then you can extrapolate it out over the rest of time up until today. Once you've got that in your brain, once you have that understanding of the social mechanics of human society, you can begin projecting where we're headed. You can see very clearly, I shouldn't say very clearly, you can see like the trajectory of where we're headed. And you recognize as well the sorts of social technologies that are going to be evolving away. The ones that are going to be they're basically no longer going to exist. Certain conceptions of like private property rights, the whole 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll like it. I think this is a reality of the future, and you're not going to stop that. You're not going to stop every major a think tank and NGO in the world all united on one single goal, creating this globalized system with the central bank digital currencies and using the AR and VR and QR codes and all these different technologies that are going to be used. They're going to create a completely different world. We're evolving away from the idea of humanity as an individual, and we're evolving into a world where humanity is seen as a group, as a network of groups. So you're going to be identified by the group that you are a part of. And you're seeing this already. You're seeing the toxic, or the maybe like the what would you call it? Like distorted expression of this, with everyone's a Nazi, or everyone's a commie, or all these different humanity is working. Like, you got to zoom your time scale way out. It might feel like 70 years is a long time, but 70 years or 80 years since World War II, relative to the evolution of human history, that's not a long time at all. So like social media, the adaptation to social media, it's only been around for essentially a decade for all intents and purposes. The effects that that's having on our society, the effects that that's having on the human psyche, on social psychology, those are still working themselves out. But if you recognize the way that humans think and function in the world at scale, especially in groups, and then you come to understand the nature of the mind control mechanism that is the corporate press and Hollywood and academia all together. When you recognize all of these different facets of the machine of this world, you can tell where it's going. It's like if you study a car, if you study the way that a car is designed and the way that the mechanics of the car work, you can understand, okay, the car is going to go forward, and if you turn the wheel, it's going to go this way. If you turn the wheel, it's going to go that way. If you study the constituent parts of it, it gives you a picture of the whole, and you take the whole together, and you can figure out where it's going. And I guess that's kind of we're feeling. Stephen and I are both feeling like we're in an era, kind of, or not an era, but like we're at in an era in the history of our podcast. Yes. We're at a sort of we're kind of we're figuring out where we're going forward from here. Like what our focus is, what our priorities are, what we want to talk about. You know, you can only rehash the same stuff so many times. And I want new and different. I always want variety and I want new stuff. I get tired of stuff really quickly and easily.
Girl, same.
And and so we're in the course of we're I don't know. We're figuring out where we're going from here. What's this going to be about? What are we going to focus on? And we've got a few different ideas. We have different subjects that interest us. And now that we've got everything up and running with the podcast and everything, we've got a list of guests that we're going to be bringing on here. We're going to have some really interesting conversations through that. And I think that part of that is going to adapt us into a new frame of mind and kind of give us new purpose going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some, and there are people who are doing things. You know, there's people who have moved beyond the point of, you know, I think things are changing and are unstable, and I need to change the way that my life looks, and fill in the blank. And they have gone beyond thinking that and started to actually do some pretty interesting things. Some people that, you know, acquaintances of ours and whatnot. There's some interesting things going on that people are a part of, and it would be really cool to talk to those people. And you know what? Maybe one of those things sounds like something that you're thinking about. You know, maybe you're a young stud with no ties to anything, and you know, you hear about something going on in something state that shall not be named, and it sounds good to you, and you want to go check it out, or you want to get a group of your little grab ass pals together and do something similarly in Arkansas or wherever it is that you are. But yeah, there's some people who are trying to skin this cat a couple different ways, and man, I am just for selfish purposes looking to talk to them.
Cooper asked, "What are your guys' thoughts on OPSEC? Do you think it's better to use your real face and name or a pseudonym with an anime profile picture? The former feels more courageous and honest, but the latter gives you the freedom to go full schizoid."
If Matt hadn't answered my DMs, you would have no idea who the fuck I was. I'm so mad that Matt went on goddamn Pete Quinones' podcast, because I was literally that week. I was like, all right, how do I undo everything I've ever done publicly? And then I was like, son of a bitch. I'm listening to the podcast and I'm just like, man, can you sound retarded? Shit, Pete's laughing. Oh, well.
I've thought about that before. I've thought about, like, I've said lots of times, you know, you should have you should act as if you have no privacy. Like, just assume you have no privacy, act as if you don't. And, you know, because that's going to, if you're operating from that frame of mind, that's just going to set you up for success more, because you're reducing the, what do you call it? Like you're reducing the attack surface that each thing that you have, each secret that you hold is a potential vulnerability. So the more you try to protect your identity, the more you're raising your stakes. You're raising the stakes for discovering, for what happens if someone discovers who you are and actually makes the connection. For me, I think that given the technologies and stuff that are available today, unless you have a really key, like, detailed understanding of everything OPSEC related digitally, like how to actually protect your digital identity and prevent anybody from ever being able to connect you. If there's someone who does have a detailed understanding of how all these technologies work under the hood, which I definitely don't. I'm a complete noob with, like, the actual technologies of cryptography and all this kind of stuff. And the internet protocols and all that sort of thing. I don't understand any of that at all.
Yeah, but this guy's not. He's talking about anime profile, you know, like avatars or whatever. This guy uses Linux machines, man.
Right. Yeah. So if you have the know-how, and you could put yourself in that position, then I'd say knock yourself out. But I think that there's a good chance that a lot of people do themselves a disservice by thinking they have anonymity or pseudonymity when they don't.
Sure.
So I would say whether you whether you are practicing OPSEC like that or not, you should still pretend that you have no privacy. I just in general think that there is zero upside whatsoever to Fed posting. I tweeted something this week that was it was a little bit of a subtweet. I was definitely referencing somebody, but I'm not going to say who. Some of you probably could figure it out. But it was related to this conversation about what's going on in Australia. And there was this video. I haven't followed all of this because I've been away from following stuff on Twitter and all these conversations. I've been away from it for a few days. So what's up, Mark Egan in the chat. I just saw this video. I kind of flipped things open, was scrolling through my Twitter timeline. I saw this video of people busting through the police line in Australia and like mobbing through. There's one guy who looks like he's
very impressive.
Yeah, the guy was crushing people. He obliterated some cops, and I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty good to see.
We have someone in Australia who watches regularly. Do we not? Is that anyone in the chat right now from Australia? Familiar. Yeah, we definitely do. What do you guys do down there for like football? If I was going to say, okay,
have you ever watched Aussie Rules football?
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. But it's like that's different, presumably than rugby, right?
It's like rugby plus volleyball plus soccer plus basketball. Yeah. It's like all of these things. You like run and dribble. You like spike.
More criminal football. Yeah. So this guy obviously a practitioner has to be. Like there's no way he's
no question.
Yeah.
Watching him just absolutely like his body control, watching him just steamroll through people. He Total very stunt. Much is he's a rock.
Yes, certainly the descendant of exiled criminals, without a doubt.
Yeah. I saw one tweet. It said that the problem with Australia is not the descendants of the criminals; it's the descendants of the jailers or the people who control the criminals. Those are the real issues. But anyway, so. When I saw that video going, I was like, this is not... A couple years ago, I would have seen that and been like, yeah, hoorah! But I guess understanding the way, like being able to track with the system, understanding the way the regime functions, because what's going on in Australia is the regime. When we talk about the regime here in the States, the regime in Australia is the same thing. It's a spiritual beast. It's not bound to one geographic location. The way that it functions is the best thing that could possibly happen to them is exactly what's happening in Australia. All of the people who are resisting the mandates, which I'm not justifying the mandates. I'm not justifying the lockdowns. I'm not saying that this is that I have an easy solution. I'm just describing what's happening. The best thing that the regime could get in Australia is mass violent riots, protesting the lockdowns. Because what that does is it reframes the conversation away from the lockdowns and onto the riots. And now these are people, these aren't like calm, peaceful people who just want to be left alone. These are violent rioters rampaging in the streets and beating up cops. Exactly. That story is so easy to write. A 10-year-old could do it. And that's what's going to... So now this becomes the justification. That's going to be the next level of escalation. And people are like, yeah, sure, great, cool. Let's escalate because I want to have a fight. But you're not going to win that fight.
Yeah.
This isn't a positive way forward. And anyone who's encouraging you toward this, anyone who's encouraging rioting, any sort of violent gathering of any kind like that, they may mean well. They may just not be that bright. But ultimately, they're encouraging you to feed the regime.
Right. There might be a misconception that, like, I guess if you're trying to like sort of intentionally misunderstand us, you might think, oh, those two, there's these bootlicking statists or whatever. It's like I think that's a cool video. That's pretty cool. Like just that video in a vacuum by itself. That guy just like, tearing ass through like 6 cops. Like that's it's pretty great. I kind of enjoy it, but yeah, if you think beyond it, and that's the problem is that I don't think a lot of people are thinking beyond what happens after that. So I don't know how these cops are in Australia, but I know that in the United States of America, they don't take kindly to being made to look like a bunch of jerk offs, and like.
It's not like they're gonna. It's not like the cops are gonna see that and be like, "Oh man, we were so wrong." Thank you for pointing out how wrong we were. Now we're on your side. That's not gonna happen.
Right. Yeah, and it's just like, well, no, I'm not gonna say this. You want to know? This is. I don't know if this is bonus members. I'll get back to it. We're talking about Aussie cops or whatever the fuck we're talking about. I have a friend who, I mean, over a decade ago. Reached out to people and got responses from people and made an earnest effort to make a follow-up to the Karate Kid, to right the wrongs of it. I've got the email that he talked to, like, that Sean Cannon guy who is like a bad boy Mike Barnes or what. He talked to a lot of people to the point where we discussed potentially there was some legal footing for us to stand on when Cobra Kai came back. And if I can get his permission, I will read this email that, like, he is just an engineer, in like South Florida, wrote to these production companies. It's just someone who so clearly hates his job and just just would do anything to get out of it, to the point where he wrote a production company about rewriting the Karate Kid, or like making, like a follow-up to right the wrongs of the original story. But yeah, basically in the original story, it's like, did you see, Daniel LaRusso? And it's like, Chosen's going to fuck him up. You know what I mean? Like, in the same thing here, unfortunately, you are Daniel LaRusso. And not like Daniel LaRusso, hero of the Karate Kid. You're just like a really skinny 12-year-old, unfortunately. So,
like, if there was that guy that was like bum rushing the cops and just blowing them up, if you had, I don't know, like 50,000 guys like that who were all ready to party, then in Australia, it might be a different story. But even that circumstance, even if you have a bunch of guys like that, the only way that it's going to result in some sort of positive outcome is if all of those guys are all completely united in purpose around a specific idea. Like, it doesn't have to be necessarily, like, I'm not suggesting one specific idea. I'm saying that there has to be one idea that they're all united around, that all has them fighting for the same purpose in the same direction. And they have to have a plan, not just go out and fuck up cops, but like, we're going to, I tweeted something recently. I said, like, if you're gonna go like protest something at your local government, you need to be ready and have a plan to remove those people from the buildings, sit down, write a new constitution, install a new government, and then do the same thing all the way up the chain to the federal government. That's what that requires.
Our issue is the lack of plan after the performative, feel-good, emotional release of an action.
Yes.
That assuredly, the people who are in power in most cases are completely well-versed in just like flipping on you. And everybody, me too. They're going to flip it on me. Like, it's going to affect me too. That's why, like, that's why we don't like it, because we continue to lose in real life in the people who are sort of cheering it on. Also lose in real life, but gain like Twitter followers. And I shared something about it in Nick Paul.
Shout out Nick Paul. Paul's the wall.
Made some reference to, like, a lot of people are viewing this as bull and a matador and like betting on the bull, which I thought was pretty good.
Pretty good.
And so I just continue. I thought about that like all day, and I was just like, man, I wonder if like in like bull world, you've got like a John Stossel bull who has spent years in, like, I don't even know if it's intentional, but just convincing bulls that, matadors are just totally goofy and incompetent, so that bulls are just have this vision of the Matador as just someone who is just kind of like powerless and like should be able to be easily overpowered. And so then maybe you have like libertarian bulls on Twitter who are tweeting out, propaganda like this, like pro attack the Matador propaganda, right? And just getting the bulls all jazzed up, because that is what it's like. It's kind of like you see bulls heading in to whatever goofy arena they hold these fucking bullfights. And like the libertarian bulls are just like, man, look at this guy. You see these tassels? You're a bull. He's got tassels. Come on, man. You're not go fuck him up. You got it. You're a bull. Like, I feel like that's what libertarians are kind of currently doing. And it's just like, man, if only these bulls spoke Spanish. Because I mean, you can say it in English, like Matador. It's a Matador. It's like, oh fuck, it's Matador. They call him a fucking killer. Like he's called a killer, and like that's what the military or the enforcement arm of the state is ultimately, because it goes all the way the fuck up. I mean, if things get out of hand and they want to squash it, they're gonna fucking squash it if they want to. They squash what they want to squash, for sure. And this would be obviously something that once they milk what they want out of it, if they want to put it down, they'll put it down.
Right. I mean, if you wanted to go in, if you went into your local government, your local, just like city or county government, and you overtook it by force, which, to be very clear for YouTube's algorithm, I'm advocating the exact opposite of that. I am not advocating that whatsoever. Do not go take over any of your governments by force, because you're working against yourself. If you're doing that, you are digging your own grave. If you go in and overtake it by force, and you don't have the popular willpower and the firepower to not only hold that position when inevitably, say, your state government shows up at your front door, they bring in the National Guard for you, they frame you as domestic terrorists, and they have the vast majority of the local population riled up against you because these are just people who sit and watch CNN all day. If you're gonna do that, like, you're gonna get crunched. You would have to have the willpower and the firepower to not just take over and control your local government, but then take on and overpower and replace the state government. Because what are you going to do if you don't? At the very least, say you have the willpower and the firepower to just hold them off. What are they going to do? They're just going to wait a few weeks, few months, kind of let things die down, and then just gradually take things over again. And if they don't, the next level above them will.
And if you're one of these goofballs and I know no one listening to the show right now who's in this chat would dare say it, but if somehow Matt had the bright idea to put this on fucking podcatchers, somehow you get sent this, and right now you're seething in your Best Buy uniform. It's starting to get hot around the collar, and you're thinking, well, I want to say something about Afghanistan. You need to go listen to our friend Jason McCrae talk about Afghanistan on Instagram. He has a nice video on his Instagram about exactly why Afghanistan was never supposed to be one. So this is not another story of the ill-equipped peasants through their sheer will and passion, fending off the most powerful military in the world. This is not that. It would not be that.
That narrative has never, even when I was like a normie con, or even when I was a libertarian, at any point through that process, that narrative never made any sense to me. I was like, what do you mean that the U.S. can't, that does not have the ability to take over and to win the war in Afghanistan? Mm-hmm. What do you mean they don't have they could turn Afghanistan to glass if they wanted. Mm-hmm. It's not ability that's holding them back. Mm-hmm. It's something else. It's politics, perhaps. I wonder why. What sort of incentives are at work there? And what sort of incentives are at work there that would not be at work in this Americanized domestic version of this? And also, the narrative is always that they couldn't take over a bunch of goat herders. They couldn't defeat a bunch of goat herders in the mountains with AK-47s. Ergo, we can hold them back and just kind of maintain our standard of living as it is. We could go head to head with them and then just sort of like go back to using the internet and driving on the roads and like, I mean, if you're talking, we're gonna like replicate what happened in Afghanistan. Well, you better be prepared to go live in the mountains and live the life of a goat herder. And nobody apparently is willing to do that. Even the ones who are, they don't have. They're the ones. They're such a tiny minority that even they don't fit that whole. The whole thing is just complete. It's the spirit of 1776 making people think and do really stupid things. I am not a fan of the spirit of 1776. I think that it's probably one of the most powerful mythologies, one of the most powerful pro-regime mythologies of all time. Because what it does, when you have the spirit of 1776, that whole narrative, that whole regime is the existing regime takes that narrative, takes that mythology, and uses it as its creation myth. So the regime is the spirit of 1776. If you're going to try to use the spirit of 1776 and say, well, this regime has actually departed from it, they're the ones who own it. That's their founding myth. That's the myth where from whence they draw the power that they use to crush you. So it does you're not gonna defeat the American government by out 1776ing them, because that's where they derived their power in the first place. Watching all of this happen has been frankly it's been demoralizing for me to come to this realization. It's not like I like these ideas. It's not like my life is so much better because I realized that the Revolutionary War story that we were told is a complete lie. That it's just a myth written by the victors to reframe their leftism, for lack of a better word, and to get modern like boomercon patriots to actually buy in and inject energy into the system and support the system even when they think they're opposing it. It's a brilliant myth. It's a brilliant story that has been told, and it's very, very effective. And I liked the world that I lived in when I bought into that and believed it and lived according to those principles. And the what is it Jefferson said? He said that from time to time the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of martyrs. That could be a fucking Lenin quote. That sounds exactly like something Lenin would say.
My favorite thing is when people share it who have just, you imagine them being anywhere near blood, and you can't not laugh. That's my favorite thing to do is look at who's saying these things, and then just imagining that person involved in that whatever activity that they might be advocating for.
I like this term that Nicholas has been using lately, the Yankee Puritans. That's a really good conceptualization of the ethos that ties the existing ruling class to the birth of America. I mean, the founders, the revolutionaries, so to speak, they were not. It's framed as, it was a bunch of what was the Dave Smith tweet that you responded to recently, where he tweeted like a meme or something where it talked about, it was like a bunch of farmers with like hunting equipment. Yeah, you replied to him and you were like, it's almost like that wasn't that story doesn't make a lot of sense.
I didn't. Yeah, man, I didn't know if I knew it was Dave, my sweet Dave. I would never challenge Dave on Twitter like that. But yeah, it was something about the holiday where it was the same shit, just with America. But like
it was the meme he posted on 4th of July that said something like, "This is the day we celebrate when a bunch of
farmers with
outdated hunting
farm equipment,
took
over the most powerful, defeated the most powerful military in the world." And so it's just like, it's one of those things that you hear, and like Matt said, he had some skepticism skepticism as a young lad, and you would hear it and you would say, so is that true? Or like, what happened? Like, what's the what's the missing information? And so the same thing, I don't know how many people have been to Afghanistan or can picture Afghanistan, but there is something about thinking that we are at war with Afghanistan leaving all of our equipment there and making them the third most powerful military in the world overnight. Before that, and thinking that we couldn't maybe have wrapped it up in 15 years or 10 or 5 or in an afternoon. Yeah, like that. Something doesn't add up in any case. It's like, man, what's going on over there? Certainly something's going on over there, and so it's easier just to kind of buy into these like emotional statements of maybe you feel like you identify with like a broke farmer. You're a downtrodden farmer, modern day equivalent. And so it's nice for you to think that you could maybe one day defeat, although you probably don't want to, but maybe if you had to, you could defeat or help defeat the most powerful military in the world. That probably feels pretty good. But it's just like how, when they play this game with the left where they have like leftist trade imaginary power for like giving up like giving real power to people and these ideas that make them feel good. I guess the thing that happens kind of on the right is they trade like a sort of a lottery ticket feeling, where you think that you could defeat Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
You've taken a few cardio kickboxing classes. Come on.
Right.
Here's a little story. Dana White taught cardio kickboxing. He runs the UFC. Yeah.
Nicholas says, I say that 1776 doesn't work because it's an alien mythos that is now only called back upon in the most nominal sense. And now that whole mythology is being erased. Yeah. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that it doesn't work to rally people today? Like it's no longer effective to that end? Or are you saying that it doesn't work in that appealing to it does not have the effect that those who appeal to it think that it does? Because I think I would probably agree in either case, but it's I think that the longer people the longer that libertarians and conservatives, there's a phrase we haven't used in a while, the longer that libertarians and conservatives see themselves in that light, the longer that they see themselves as inheritors of the tradition of the founding fathers, the longer that they buy into this revolutionary tradition, the worse off they're going to be, and the more that they're going to handicap themselves as we transition into this new age. If you want to read, if you want to hear some really interesting stuff on the revolutionary tradition, look up Jay Dyer. He's done some really interesting work on what he calls the revolutionary tradition, I think is what he calls it, which is basically the capitalist communist dialectic, and it's essentially it's liberalism. Liberalism is born out of the revolutionary tradition, and it's its founding ethos, and that founding ethos is a lie. This is part of why liberalism is ultimately I guess it's like an agent of the enemy, kind of, that it doesn't. It's a way of you tell this story of liberty and the individual and all that, and when you actually apply it, when you actually begin taking actions in the name of the liberal tradition, you get the opposite of what liberalism claims to produce. And all of this is born out of the this revolutionary tradition. I mean, and if you think about it, like revolutionaries being revolutionary does not correspond with order. You don't. Revolution is like the opposite. Like if you're engaging in revolution, you're engaging in overthrow you're like, by definition, you're promoting chaos. And the idea is we're going to create all this chaos. We're going to promote all this chaos, throw everything up into flux. And then when everything lands, it's going to be in a different order and we're going to be better off. But that never actually works out for the little guys, except to the degree that their interests are aligned with elite interests. Ultimately, the elites are the ones who are they're the ones who are going to fund the revolution. They're the ones who are going to direct the revolution, and they're the ones who are going to profit from the revolution. The hoi polloi, the common man, is not going to, except to the extent that he aligns his interests with those elites. And right now, we don't have an elite class that is positioned to actually benefit from a revolutionary movement like that where that class, that elite class, that hypothetical elite class that doesn't exist, you would need that class to exist and to benefit from a revolutionary movement in a direction that promotes liberty. And that just doesn't exist. Those elites aren't out there. Or if they are, they're not focused on trying to, overhaul the system to promote liberty. These are just ideas that they're temporary. They're fleeting. This whole notion of individualism and liberty and private property rights, all these kinds of things they're going to go the way of the dodo. I'm not saying that I want them to. I'm just saying that they are. And now, because they are, once I've recognized that they are, then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to put myself in a position where when that happens, I'm going to benefit from it. So then, because of that, as I begin to put myself in that position, okay, well, yeah, now I do want that to happen, because now my interests are vested in an area where I will benefit from that position. But Rachel Tobias, shout out Rachel Tobias, the Steven's nemesis.
Yes, my arch nemesis, apparently.
I think it was her in our chat. She made a really interesting observation that I just completely forgot I was getting ready to bring it up, and as we were changing the subject, and I just completely forgot it. What was I talking about just before that?
It's a good fucking question.
I'm trying to remember she made a really interesting point. Oh, I remember what it was. That this whole Davos, you'll own nothing and you'll like it, sounds an awful lot like being a nomad. Like, nomadic people don't have private property in that sense. Their identity isn't attached to the land. Their identity is attached to a group, to a tribe. And that tribe moves around and goes different places, but they don't have they're structured differently. And I think that it's not a coincidence that this ability, this like digital nomad idea, the ability of being able to relocate, move around all over the place around the world, and people having the desire to do that, that's happening at the same time that this, you'll own nothing and you'll like it movement is happening. And so I think rather than trying to fight that, I think you're better off accepting that it's going to happen and putting yourself in a position to benefit from it when it does. That's at the root of everything. Like why we don't agree with this whole like take over the LP and try to save through the political system. Like all of this stuff is all rooted in that idea, recognizing where we're going and skating. Was the Wayne Gretzky thing that you skate to where the puck is going to be and not where it is right now? If you're getting involved in riots and protests and trying to save the system as it is right now, you're skating toward where the puck is now, but the puck is moving. And you can tell where it's going to go if you want to do the work, if you're willing to sacrifice your dogmas, then you can tell where it's going to go. You can complain. You could say, well, I don't want it to go that way. I won't like it. I don't like it that it's going to go that way. But that doesn't change the fact that it is. So if this future is inevitable, if this, if the World Economic Forum is going to have their way one way or the other, because that's the position they've put themselves in, then don't kick against the pricks. They're a bunch of pricks. Don't kick them. Just put yourself where you can personally benefit and profit from the moves that they make.
I think if we could get people to agree that it might be a rough next 5 years, because I think like some people's sense of timing or their time preference or whatever is so far away from that 5 years sounds kind of like a long time. You know, they're just like, I gotta wait 5 years to.
How many election cycles is that?
Right, yeah. But if you got people to think that it might potentially be a very uncomfortable 5 years, and if you think back and you kind of look at the fact that we're coming up on 2 years with this shit already, right? So that's 2 years that went by pretty quick, and things went from. I mean, we know where things started. Like, there's memes about it. We went from 15 days to flatten the curve to show me your papers. You'll need F15 to blah, blah, blah. Like, we have the internet. But like, it's important to just kind of see from A to B, how what the slope was. And so, if in saying that we kind of don't think that a lot of this LARPing 1776 is really going to get you anywhere good, where the fuel for this thing you hate is you LARPing 1776. I don't know. I think comes off a little bit more reasonable. And like, even if you want to be, kind of bright-eyed about it, it's just like, hey man, this thing could really run its course in 5 years, and they run out of steam. They get too ambitious, and the Davos crowd just kind of overplays their, I don't know, whatever. Any number of ways that this thing could like fall apart. Somebody else somehow comes along, and there's another small group of elites that are able to unseat those that are making our current lives miserable in 5 years. For me, it seems pretty unlikely. But if you give yourself, say, at least 5 years, I think what we're kind of saying is like, this is a time to get your shit together, more so than worry about spearing cops. Although, again, very fun video. Very fun video in a vacuum. But yeah, it's just like, hey man, this is it's not the time to just change things overnight. It ain't gonna happen. And it might be time for like a 5-year plan. Unfortunately, it might be a shitty 10 years, might be a shitty 50 years. It's all reasonable. And so I don't know that we are really I guess it's a matter of playing for the worst kind of a thing. So if you were some hunter-gatherer type, and there was a hurricane coming, but the hurricane decides to just all of a sudden veer off and not come, hopefully people aren't calling you assholes for it. I mean, that's fine. If it means if it's trade-off of not having a hurricane obliterate you, it's fine to just be called like an asshole, or doomsayer or whatever. But I think our overall thing is just like, things are pretty fucked. They went from kind of fucked to, wow, I can't believe how fucked things are, to, man, it's gonna get more fucked than this, just like in a matter of a few months. And it's a very uncertain time. And like this regime here might be running out of steam, but it's still got plenty of steam left, and it's going to just keep having more steam if people continue. It's going to have more steam regardless of what anyone does. But yeah, you're only sort of adding to it by behaving this way, and it just isn't the time. Can you post that link about the American Revolution either in the supporting listeners group or tweet it out or something like that? It would be really cool.
Which
to
link?
Hear that. About Jay Dyer talking about the American Revolution.
Oh yeah. He's got a whole bunch of videos that he's done on it. So I'll pull up some of them. Let me make a note of this real quick here.
And just while Matthew was saying this, he made a comment like when he was talking about the supporting listeners group, maybe last episode, and he was saying how typically he's kind of difficult to get a hold of, online, and the supporting the listeners group kind of consolidates that, whatever. How about this? I, as some of you may know, I actually co-host a show with Matthew. I have my Twitter messages pulled up. I have 2 messages that I sent to Matthew from July of 2021, the 14th and the 15th, to be specific. And you might be able to see, I don't know if you'll be able to see or not, but this is a gray, and I'll tweet this the fuck out. I will. The tick mark here, my phone is flipping the fuck out. It is in fact gray. It is not blue. He has not looked at it. All right? So he is not bullshitting in the slightest when he says that he's a very important, busy person and he has no time for you.
There, how does it look now?
This fucker won't. Hold on, let me. I took a screenshot. Just for purposes, I took a screenshot. But no. Wait, no, that's still a screenshot. Let me see. Let's see. Yeah, I have to scroll all the way the fuck down here to find Matthew's message. Oh, no, I don't. Oh, you replied. Oh dear. Look at that. I got a winky face, guys. I might have to go.
Yeah, I'm notorious for being very difficult to get a hold of. And part of this is because I'm in so many different group texts and conversations with people that I just have to turn notifications off or my phone would never stop blowing up. So if I turn the notifications off, then I have to remember to go look at it and go find it. And
shout out Pete Quinones.
Yeah.
For Matthew's notifications.
This really started when I started doing the show with Jason. When I because as it was, I was someone who had a large social group, a lot of friends, a lot of people I know. I was one of those
notifications from Jason.
You were. That's true. Yeah, I remember one of the first times that you and I ever had a conversation, and it was in the part of the problem group right after the first time that Jason and I talked about Dave and his audience.
Yes.
And I couldn't read you. I couldn't tell if you were like trolling me or if you were serious. I was like, this dude's freaking weird, man.
And you were right.
I was. So Josiah Bartlett, shout out Josiah Bartlett. He said 1776 was a revolt against power and created institutions designed to manage perpetual revolution / reformation. That right there is, I think if he'd left the comment be, that right there is a fantastic insight that the American system is designed to manage perpetual revolution. It's designed to absorb that and direct it into maintaining the system. Now, it's interesting. There's the phrase perpetual revolution is often associated with a particular person. That would be Trotsky. Perpetual revolution is itself a communist trope. The idea there constantly has to be cycling and recycling, and we have to be constantly in a state of flux, constantly in a state of chaos. Like that right there. If you've understood and recognized the necessity of order and that order and liberty are synonymous, then you'll recognize that being in a constant state of revolution is the exact opposite of liberty. And once you've understood archetropism, you'll understand that a perpetual state of revolution is actually the ideal state for a state, because that's how it will maintain its state. There you go. So to finish Josiah's comment, he said, you cannot reform the Reformation, which is what 1776 spirit aims for. Ultimately, anybody who's talking about how we're gonna bring back liberty, we're gonna roll back the state, all of this sort of rhetoric, you're talking about trying to reform a system that's built specifically to channel Reformation energy into expanding the system. I don't know how to phrase this any differently. I don't know how to, like, we keep making this same point that you trying to reform the system is you playing the role the system has given you. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do within the context of the system you claim to oppose. And I mean, again, this isn't me advocating for the state. This isn't me advocating for tyranny. I'm not advocating for this. I'm describing it. This is the nature of reality. So if you want to go play your role by um, uh, getting into like protests and riots and trying to go into the political process and reform and roll back the state, you're not going to win. You're actively working against yourself. Now, another weird thing we get accused of is saying that you shouldn't get involved in politics at all. Somehow we get accused of being authoritarians who, like, statist authoritarians, but also we get accused of, like, not wanting to get involved in politics or, like, not believing in using the political system. I definitely believe in using the political system. I just believe in using it intelligently, not masturbatorily. If I can make up a word.
It's gonna be a
There was
shirt's coming soon.
What's that?
A shirt's coming soon.
Masturbatorily?
Yeah, that would just be a good like T-shirt, like for the gym or something like that, about using the political party system.
Oh! I see what you're saying. Yeah. I like
merch, man. Come on.
I do believe in using the political system. I just believe in using it intelligently.
Yeah.
There was we haven't really fleshed this idea out anymore. So I think once we start fleshing it out more, then we'll go into it more, I guess. But in the Sporting Listeners group, which you can join if you'd like to, subscribestar.com/kingpilled. We had a really interesting conversation this morning. Let me see if I can find. So Trey said, my one sentence summary of post-libertarianism: creating a society that follows the NAP cannot be achieved by following the NAP. And that's a formulation that I've thought of before. I've pondered that and I've considered that, and I think that I believe it. Except we need to be specific about what the NAP is, what the NAP means, what is included within the NAP, because ultimately the NAP contains within it this conception of aggression and what constitutes aggression. And so the NAP doesn't preclude self-defense. You can defend yourself. You can engage in force or violence. You can do that in response to someone else's aggression. Well, what's the definition of aggression? And if your definition of aggression does not include people attempting to destroy social institutions like the family, church, education systems, people actively promoting disinformation, people like this, like the mind control device that is the cathedral today. If your definition of aggression doesn't include spiritual aggression, then it's just not very useful.
Do you notice how, like, people who are very good at bringing about the society that they desire are hell-bent on preventing misinformation? It's just what they consider misinformation.
Right.
Anything that's going to fuck up what they want, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you have to decide, you decide what that is for you, and then yes, misinformation would not be tolerated.
Right. So I do believe that this sentence here, that creating a society that follows the NAP cannot be achieved by following the NAP. I think that is true, especially with the I believe that it is true if you use the definition of the NAP that most libertarians use, where this is like evidence of the fundamental materialism of libertarians, that the only things that can be considered aggression basically are things that happen in the material world. But As soon as people are engaging in spiritual warfare against you and your family and your communities, as soon as they're targeting your children with porn and other kinds of bizarre degeneracy, suddenly that's not aggression. That's just, oh, well, we just need to have this out in the marketplace of ideas. The marketplace of ideas is bullshit. There is no marketplace of ideas. There's power. And if getting involved in especially local politics is a means by which you can um, uh, you can fight back in a spiritual battle like that, I have no problem with it. In fact, I think you have an obligation to do it. The problem is when people talk about getting into politics, especially within the libertarian context, it's entirely self-focused. It's entirely self-centered. It's, I don't have the liberty that I want. Therefore, I'm going to go get into the political system, get involved in politics, and try to get elected or support someone else so that they will give me the liberty that I want. If you begin your premise with my people, my family, my community, my people are under assault, they're being attacked through whatever vectors, and it's my responsibility to use my own wealth, power, and influence to fight back using whatever means possible so that I can protect my family, that I can protect my people, that by itself should give you a lot of clarity about what actions you should and shouldn't take. As soon as you begin acting on behalf of someone else, I think the path forward becomes a lot clearer. And if you're engaging in politics, if you're getting elected to local office, like Mayor Buck Johnson, if you're doing that kind of thing because you're butthurt about your liberty being violated and you want to go give people more liberty just in general, then you're not going to be successful in your venture. Ultimately, if you're going to get involved in politics, you need to do it for the sake of protecting the people who depend upon you. And this is where we talk about power being related to responsibility. That power is inevitable, and what power ultimately is responsibility. You need to take responsibility for your communities. And if part of taking responsibility for your communities involves getting into politics for some specific reason in some specific area with some specific role, then that's entirely consistent with the king-pilled worldview. Popular Liberty says the NAP needs to be non-archotropism principle. There you go.
Funny. I just think back to a conversation that I had very close to where I'm sitting right here. A year, maybe not this past June, but the June before that or so. And it was 2 Cubans, a Russian, a Ukrainian, white guy from the hills, Polish. It just, people who have been down the road, and man, it was the only time that I really heard them talk about anything that was going on. Certainly didn't do it in front of other people. No rah, none of that. And man, what the collective conversation was about getting a place in the mountains and waiting the shit out. Because I don't know, man. I think they tend to know the deal.
Yeah.
I think they tend to know the deal. But there was no like LARPy bullshit. When it was just none of it. It was none of it whatsoever. It was like, man, I can't believe it's gonna happen here. It's so fucked. It was like a collective like acceptance of like, oh yeah, it's definitely gonna happen here. Fuck, that was annoying. I came here because I didn't want that. And here I am, and now it's gonna happen. Son of a bitch. And there's nowhere else to go really. Fuck. Well, maybe we can get a place in the mountains. That was it.
And I think that I don't think they're wrong. I think that's a completely valid approach, and that's kind of the direction that we're headed. Amy and I, maybe not the mountains necessarily, but we're getting out of Southern California. We don't know exactly where we're going yet, but I'll say this: we're definitely leaning toward Texas. That is very likely that we wind up in Texas.
I think that that's going to be definitely, at least sometimes a major sort of topic, next steppy kind of things. And I can't wait for it. I'm so excited. I think, we went through sort of trying our best to understand what was going on. We went through, if you go back to some of these other episodes I'm talking about, very enthusiastically smashing the libertarian approach.
Like, people who've started listening to us recently, if you think that we've been harsh,
you gotta catch some of the old ones that Matt's picking up. But yeah, went through that, continued, and then I don't know. I think the audience grew a little bit, so maybe kind of like reintroducing some ideas and familiarizing these ideas with some of the newer people, and then immediately calling the new audience down to this kind of fucking very refined sort of diamond that is in the making right now. And then I think from here, man, it's gonna be a really cool pivot. And I'm very excited about it. Myself personally, well, I'm gonna stop being poor, which means unfortunately that I've got to step out for a bit. When I say for a bit,
I'm gonna wrap
until
I
can be in the supporting listeners group a little later this evening, and for the rest of you, Thursday.
Sounds good, folks. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. We'll be back here again on Thursday. We'll see if my camera works then or not. And
I like this. I like the a neighbor's choice vibe that we have going on. The colors are kind of the same. I think there's something that we need to. I'm going to look at a screenshot of it tonight, but I think we should just embrace it. Maybe if this is going to involve like a camera repair and money, it's like, man, fuck that. Let's have some fun for a while.
Well, I have been talking about like relocating out of this room. We kind of need to rearrange our stuff up here, and I'm in the master bedroom right now, and I might just relocate to one of the other bedrooms.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we can just do it like this for the next one, just so it's double uncomfortable.
Yeah. I'll get myself over to the side here so we kind of balance it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man.
All right, folks. PalomaVerdeCBD.com, promo code KING, subscribestar.com/KingPilled, Twitter.com/Messina Inc.
Yep.
I guess I don't have to give the link for that one.
And if you have video Inc. editing on Twitter, just hit your boy up right now.
Yeah, at Messina Inc. on Twitter and Real King Pilled on Twitter. And we will see you guys on Thursday. Remember, look out for our interview on Counterflow with Buck Johnson. Subscribe to Buck on YouTube and get him up to 1,000. And then we'll see you guys in the supporting listeners group.